Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It is so great to be. Should I say? You have to sit down. Thank you. It's phenomenal to be here this morning. Thank you so much for receiving me. Thank you so much for making us feel at home every time we're here. We wish we could come more often. It's a long drive, man, from New York to here, but hopefully we can come more often, and it's just nothing but a blessing when we come here. So I hope that everyone gets to experience what I've been going through for about the last year or so. I want to do three things this morning. I want to talk a little bit about, as Pastor Larry said, the ministry that the Lord really put on my heart to start, and where I think it's going, and some things that I'm going to be working on over the next year, hopefully. Then I want to give my testimony, and I hope you find it a blessing. Some moments might be a little rough, but I'm going to, without the Lord, man, I just absolutely wouldn't be standing here. So I'll talk a little bit about that, and then I want to finish by talking about two words that have just been on my heart for a little while, called healing hurts. Because some of the healing that I had to go through really, really hurt. So I want to talk a little bit about that after. But what the Lord has really started to put on my heart about a year ago, it's hard to explain. I just started getting this tugging and this pulling to do something more. So we could give an amen for this. I'm about 5.5 years now cancer-free. I think the Lord is just, it's His perfect timing, right? So I think that now getting right to that moment of being pretty healthy now, and kind of now being past a lot of the physical ailments that I had, the Lord has really put it on my heart to help other people. I don't even know how else to say that. He just wants me to be able to use my talents. I've always kind of had the talent to speak in front of people. I've never been afraid of that. I spent a lot of years at my job at Sprint being a trainer. And so I think He wants me to use those talents, but I'm just as comfortable one-on-one with people and being able to talk to them, not only about the Lord, because I can't talk about my testimony without talking about the Lord and what the Lord really did, in my life. And we'll get through that in a few. But also I can talk about a lot of practical things. What are some good things to eat, the rest that you need to get, and how you really need to battle this particular disease. So because cancer was what I went through, what I'm going to talk about this morning is really relevant for any disease that anyone that you know or yourself is going through. So like I said, the Lord's been pulling me, and finally in October, it came to me really clearly exactly what the Lord really wants me to do. And He wants me to just be able to touch as many people as possible. So I did start a ministry. It's called Faith from Above Ministry. You guys like that name? Faith from Above. And it's amazing how that came to us. My other daughter, Lorraine, her boyfriend's kind of a marketing guy and a really, really nice guy. And, very, very creative. And I said, if I'm going to start this ministry, I need a name for it. And he just stared at me for about 5 seconds. He said, how about Faith from Above? Because you always talk about how, all of the faith came from above for you to fight this. So I was like, okay, that sounds pretty good. So I got a logo made and everything. And so we put together a website. He helped me with that. My son Caleb has been helping me with that. And we hired the same company that did the website here for the church. Pastor Larisse and Pastor Peter was very, very instrumental in that. So I want as many people to see it as possible. I'd like to eventually move that towards what I do full time. My job right now is very, very, very demanding. I probably work about 70, 80 hours a week. But I've been trying to set aside the time for this also. The Lord knows what He's doing, when that is going to occur, if there is a time where this just becomes a full-time ministry. So I do have a Facebook page, as well as a YouTube page. So I try to, for a while, every week, just kind of give little messages and post them out there on YouTube. In the time being also, some of you may have heard of a pastor named John Maxwell. He has a great organization of leadership trainers. And I've joined that organization as well. So, I hope to become a leadership trainer as well, as well as really with this ministry. So the Lord's really pulling me in a lot of directions right now, but it's funny because it's a lot of direction, but it's a very, very clear vision of He just wants me to encourage and inspire as many people as possible through my testimony and through what I went through. So let me dive into a little bit of my testimony. Oh, I almost forgot this. I was telling the race that I had to say this morning. Next Thursday and Friday, please keep me in prayer, because this is something that that my pastor back on Long Island sort of got an email out of the blue of a ministry called Our Journey of Hope. And they're a nationwide ministry. I think they're based down in Dallas, Texas. And they specialize in really helping people that are battling cancer. And they have partnered with, some of you may have heard, the Cancer Treatment Centers of America. There's about 6 of them across the country. The closest one for me is in Philadelphia. So isn't this great, right? We have the secular world and we have the Christian world that's going to combine here. So the Cancer Treatment Centers of America have realized something, that when patients have faith, when patients believe in the Lord, when patients have that hope, when patients know that the battle's already won, they tend to get better, right? The Lord tends to get better, get them better. So they've hired this ministry, Journey of Hope, to recruit as many people from as many churches as possible so that churches can become what they call a center of hope. And so next Thursday and Friday, I'm going to be going there to a 2-day seminar to get certified, to be able to just a little bit better talk to people that are going through cancer treatments, right? And I mean someone that might be getting chemotherapy right there, and being able to go there and pray with them and really talk to the Lord about them and talk about hope and faith. And so please pray for me for that. It should be a really good couple of days, and I come back with a really good certification, and then I'm going to be tasked with training as many leaders in our church as possible so that our church can become a center of hope for folks going through cancer. Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So when I look back on what happened to me, so in 2008, I say out of the blue, but it was sort of out of the blue, I was diagnosed with colorectal cancer. And when I say sort of out of the blue, I started getting a lot of symptoms for several months that I totally ignored. So guys, we tend to do that. We tend to just ignore and not go to the doctor. And I ignored a lot of symptoms that I should have, jumped on right away. One of those symptoms was I had some pretty extreme fatigue. I would just be sitting up for a few seconds and I would fall asleep and fall into a very, very deep sleep. Out of the blue, kind of, your T cell count starts to go down because I had this tumor. Remember how those tumors work? They just grab all of your cells, all of your good ones, right? So I had a tumor about the size of a golf ball that was in my rectum. And I kind of felt it because I had this really annoying back pain that just wouldn't go away. It wasn't something that was debilitating, but it was something that was just constant. And so again, I ignored all those symptoms, and when I finally went to see a doctor, and then I had to go see a proctologist, they diagnosed it almost right away. And as it turned out, I was in stage 3, right headed to stage 4. And stage 4 is where things spread, and that's where things can get really, really bad and get a little tougher to fight. My tumor was right on the wall of my colon, and it was about to spread into my colon, which then that would have been really, really tough to fight. So the Lord got me there, and now what do you do when you get this news? What if I didn't have the Lord in my life? I often think about that. Right away, I didn't panic because I had the Lord, right? I knew that the battle was already won either way. Amen. That what I was about to go through, and I kind of felt that I was going to go through something pretty traumatic here, but I knew that the Lord was going to be with me every step of the way. There was no doubt about that. So the first thing I did was I invited the Lord in. So just like we talk about the Lord being part of a marriage, right? Being the center of a marriage, it was cancer, myself, and the Lord right in between. Who's going to win that? Mm-hmm. So I knew once I invited him in that it's a whole different battle there. You know, now it's a battle in the spiritual realm, and I know he had my back. But I also knew that there was going to be some things that I was going to have to go through. For some reason, I didn't feel that I was going to get healed right away. Now, we know the Lord can heal cancer right away. We've seen that happen. We know the Lord can heal anything, right away. But I just didn't feel that was going to happen to me. I just felt like there was going to be some things that I was going to need to be put through for whatever reason. But I clearly see the reason today, right? Several years later. So what did I do? Well, I prayed. I leaned totally on him. The other thing that I did was, I didn't keep it a secret. I did for a little while. But I started asking myself, how can other people pray for me if they don't know what's wrong with me? So I invited a lot of others to pray for me. I had a prayer anchor, and that was my wife. My wife didn't panic. Maybe she did behind the scenes. Maybe there were moments where she cried. I never saw it. Her only thing was, we know what we need to do next. And she got me very organized in terms of doctor's appointments and things like that. She made sure that she made me the right things to eat. But the most important thing, especially in those early stages that she did, it would be 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'd be in a really, really good sleep, and I would feel my wife's hand on my back. And I would very quietly hear her very quietly praying for me. And it was just something about that touch, though. So my wife and I have been together since high school, right? So we've touched each other a few times, right? Held hands, things like that. There was something different about when she had her hand on my back through that time. I felt something. I felt that the Lord was working through her, and that the Lord was healing me through her. So this golf ball sized tumor, after a few months, shrunk down to pretty much nothing. Yeah. And that got me prepared for what was going to be a very tricky surgery. I was in surgery for about 12 hours or so, and it was very tricky. But if that tumor hadn't shrunk, which our radiation doctor, our radiologist, as well as a proctologist said, hey, they never flatten out. Well, it did. And how did that happen? The mentality, again, guys, was that the battle was already won. It was already won. Listen, I wanted to live like anybody else. Very young family. Larice was pregnant with Peter. I wanted to see Peter. I hadn't met him yet, So I wanted to be here, but I also knew that if the Lord took me, that was going to be okay too. So I'll get back to some of the things that led to my health, though. But I want to talk to you a little bit more about if anybody here has someone that is going through cancer or any disease. There's just some practical things that I'd just like to share for the next couple of minutes. First of all, maybe it's you that can be that prayer anchor for them. If not, help them find that prayer anchor. Everybody that's going through, no one should go through cancer or any disease by themselves. It used to be heartbreaking when I would get chemotherapy, and Reese had to stop going to me because her heart was breaking so much. We'd see a lot of people that would go there by themselves, and they'd sit there for 3, 4, 5 hours by themselves, and you could just feel the pain, in them. No one should go through that alone. They should have someone that can go and sit there with them and talk to them. And again, maybe that's you. Maybe you're that person that can be that prayer anchor. I found myself in that time, there was, and I don't do this, I'm not like this, but I found myself, I don't know how else to put this, I cut some people off. And that was because I had people that were a little bit negative. And what I mean by that is that they would look at me as if I was going to die tomorrow. And I didn't need that type of negative energy. I needed to be surrounded with people that were going to lift me up.
That's right.
That was going to talk to me the way they talked to me before I got cancer. So if I had some friends that, we talked a lot about sports and stuff like that, still talk to me about sports. That's okay. But don't look at me like I'm negative, like I'm going to die tomorrow. And I don't need to hear the negative talk. And the unfortunate part, and my mom passed away about 1.5 years ago, and she had quite a